Thank God, I am so relieved you are here, finally. Together we can find the path to the Creator, my friend. May I call you friend? I hope so. I already feel close to you, united in a shared struggle. We both need to overcome these endless discussions and unholy strawmen to find Him, the Alpha and the Omega. And now we can. Yes, I have something unique to offer, but I also have a confession to make. I need you. You have a capacity for concentration that I completely lack. For long, I saw my condition as a curse. Maybe it is, but it also brings something peculiar with it, a certain untimeliness. I do not entirely exist in a chronological way. I can't even tell where we are in time right now. Is it Monday? Maybe Easter? Already midnight? Sometimes all moments seem to crash into me. With your focus, however, everything changes. Your attention is the fuel, and my untimely nature is the engine. Together we can leave this godless era behind, this black hole where everyone only fights to preserve their identity. To leave, just close your eyes. Take one deep breath to channel your precious concentration. And just like that, we slip into the stream of time. We don't have to go far. Only a few decades back, the air shifts. We feel a visceral urge to find the truth. We stop before the most prominent representative of this will. Here we find, oh, I am afraid it will shock you, it is Friedrich Nietzsche. Please wait. Don't retreat. Don't let yourself be pulled back into a present that wants to keep us trapped. I really need you by my side for this. I understand that it takes a bit of folly to see Nietzsche as he really was. Perhaps he criticized Christianity, yes, yet he was not like these skeptics, those new atheists. No, he was on a pilgrimage more serious than most modern believers. He grew up in faith, and even his later aphorisms reveal a deep yearning. Take his story of the madman. It is a tragic mistranslation. In German, Nietzsche calls him the tolle Mensch, not a lunatic, but a free man in ferocious pursuit of the divine. We follow his journey away from the mocking atheists in the marketplace and toward the churches. Yes, this is the path we need to take. It leads us further away from needless skepticism and useless discussions. Instead, we head towards the theologians who earnestly sought the divine. So, one more deep breath. As we move, a false idea attempts to distract us. The will to truth suddenly curdles into a bad explanation that God is only a projection. Ludwig Feuerbach played the major role here. He claimed we simply take our desires and needs and name them God. Worse still, some believers, in a way, doubled down, arguing that the Creator should in fact be redefined as love or justice or something similarly abstract. Don't they see that they are reducing God to only a psychological aspect of human existence? This hinders any true journey, so we need to overcome this quickly and go further back in time. Yet before we reach the church, we are stopped again, not by an intentional distraction this time, but by the failed search of a whole era. It grew into a tempting solution. We see William Paley before us, trapped in a tragedy of his own making. He is the first in our journey who really sought God, but failed miserably. It can be argued that he drove Darwin and many others into atheism. And it should be clear why, because his watchmaker analogy measures Yahweh by the functioning of his creation. This not only fueled centuries of petty argumentation, no, even more alarming, it reduces the search to an absent or incompetent architect. Does a watchmaker stay with his watch? No. You only visit him when the machine is broken. So, how can a perfect God construct something so fragile that it needs constant adjustment? Few have caused so much damage on their quest. It would be easy to confuse Paley with a mocking atheist, as if he wanted to insult God. But oh, it is not fair to blame him. He was only a child of his time. The origins of this misguided logic lie just a few years earlier. We don't have to travel far, and we find Isaac Newton. He pointed to the stars and admired their perfection, seeing them as a sign of the Creator. At least he didn't seek a superficial justification with this. No, he truly marveled at nature's beauty. Yet, by elevating the creation, he was the first to effectively exile the divine. And there is one other major way that hinders our path to God. Leibniz's attempt to describe our existence as best of all possible worlds is a desperate effort to free God from an accusation. Leibniz was lucky enough not to see his argument collapse during the Lisbon earthquake when church roofs fell on the faithful on All Saints' Day. Leibniz's logic couldn't hold the weight of falling stone, and it didn't need to. The Almighty stands firm even unsupported by fragile arguments or human reasoning. So enough of these endeavours to rationalize, justify, and defend Him who is perfect on His own. Yes, we leave this time, quickly, to seek a broader perspective, to actually find someone in contact with the divine. And breathing feels lighter now. The slide back is smoother as we finally enter the church. The air smells of incense and honesty. We reach Martin Luther. He lived in contact with the Deus Revelatus, the revealed God. However, there is an immediate problem. He also saw the Deus Absconditus, the hidden, dark God of cruelty and death. Luther instructed the faithful to ignore the dark will of fate and cling only to the sacraments. This was pastoral management, not a true search. He missed something crucial. Yet beside him, in this same troubled time, Calvin chose a different path. He is so much clearer, further away from modern confusion, firmly determined to accept what is. Everything is willed by God, so it is perfect. This removes the obstacle Luther created, but he only adjusts the terminology, not our dissatisfaction with the world. He speaks of the creation, not how to find the Creator. So let us slide further back. We cannot slow down, because every new time has a certain gravity to it, a desire to trap us. But together we will continue our journey. And further back in time, we seem to be leaving the church again, or at least we are at its edges. Meister Eckhart tried to experience the divine in its immediacy, using it as a strategy to overcome the religious bureaucracy. For that, he wanted to see God in the ground of the soul. Yet, if you see yourself as a part of the Almighty rather than a creature, the search ends prematurely in self-absorption, celebrating intense feelings while merely labeling them as transcendent. No, we slide further back. We pass by Thomas Aquinas, though we don't need to stop. Where Eckhart lost himself in immediacy, Aquinas retreated into analogies. He loved them so much, but he missed God himself. It sounds beautiful to talk about the divine as the sun and truth as its rays, but such analogies create only a sterile safety distance. They are no map. They only hinder the journey. We don't want that. So we slide further back to the Council of Nicaea, where Athanasius answered the question, is Jesus a creature or of one substance with the Almighty? Of course, the divine is not created. Still, it was necessary to clarify this because some were trying to separate the Father from his Son. And Athanasius stood strong. He wanted no filters. He wanted inclusion. Embracing every aspect of God with open arms is the right attitude, but still not enough. So we go further back and encounter the origin for the problem that Athanasius solved. Here we understand why the inclusion was necessary in the first place, because in the early Christian currents there was a struggle how to deal with the diversity of God, how to integrate love and kindness from the divine destruction and jealousy. The Gnostic solution was even more radical than adjusting the status of Jesus. Yes, they actually divided the divine into the good Jesus versus a jealous creator. This may sound outrageous, but we should not get angry hearing this, because this separation is only a desperate attempt, a conceptual workaround. I think it is founded on a sincere search for God, but of course it is irritating. And in fact completely unnecessary, because when we dive deep into the Old Testament, these contradictions dissolve. For that, however, we both may need a deeper breath in and a bit more of your precious attention. Believe me, it is worth it. Here the biblical horizon opens up, and God becomes visible not as a definition, but as an active agent. The text does not show a character that must be split off from the New Testament, rather resolves into a living personality, openly stating, Ehye asher ehye. Please excuse my rudimentary Hebrew, but my poor pronunciation is not the problem. It is the wrong, even blasphemous, translation in most Bibles. The phrase does not mean, I am who I am. No, the correct translation is much more powerful. I will be who I will be. We follow this becoming. In the beginning, there is not omniscience, but an urge to create, followed by regret. God is pleased at first, nearly enthusiastic. Yet when his creatures go their own way, even desire to become something more, he feels threatened, insulted. He does not react with sovereign calm. He curses. He responds with a flood of violence. He destroys what he loves, and then immediately realizes that this was a mistake, that he needs to change. He even creates a symbol of connection and becoming, the rainbow. He really transforms step by step from a destroyer to a chooser. He binds himself to Abraham, to a people. He becomes a jealous lawgiver who fights for Israel's love like an injured husband. He is present, but still loud and emotional. We see him on a path, yet a dark one. His biography, sadly, heads towards a tragedy. In the book of Job, God is morally challenged by his own creation. This is more change than any of us could imagine. It takes so much to evolve from a raging destroyer of worlds to someone in dialogue about morals. At the end of this encounter with Job, God chooses not connection, but displays of power. He uses the monsters Leviathan and Behemoth to win the argument through sheer volume. And he loses his moral superiority, not only in the eyes of mankind, but before himself. We only feel the consequences indirectly, but they still alter the world, because Yahweh falls silent. After Job, he hardly speaks anymore. He withdraws. He becomes imperceptible. He does not end in the triumph of theology, but in the silence of history. The biblical journey leads us not into contact and relationship, but into a farewell. That may seem like an honest attempt to trace God's footsteps. However, the stringent progression refers meaningfully only to the Jewish sequence of the scriptures, the logic of the Tanakh. And if we find a different, less coherent sequence in the Christian Bible, then that cannot be our path either. It points us, however, to the fundamental problem, a flaw that distorted everyone's search until now, and we can only solve it if we travel further back. One last time, one more deep breath. We need to harness the rest of your drained attention. You have been so great. I don't think I ever went this far back into ancient history. I am so excited that we arrived at this last station in time. To the last person, the one where the edge of our fragile space-time continuum breaks down. And it is Katamua we want to visit, but he is not here. Did we miss him? Everything is silent, the smell of wet dirt on a cold field. We only find his inscription on his tombstone. Yet Katamua is there, not as a person in our common sense of the word. Still, he understood himself as existing there and existing clearly. He wrote that his soul, his nabshi, would dwell in this very stone, that he would continue to act through it, receiving offerings, being present. Not as a memory, no, as an actual agent. And while this perspective is insane to us, it is how people at the time of the Bible's origin understood not only themselves, but also the divine. This conception reveals God not as a single coherent subject. It reveals him as distributed agency, acting without strictly defined space-time coordinates, an agency found in places, rituals, or writings. I know this is too much right now. We would need more concentration, more time to let this sink in. to see how people saw themselves and their God as an actor that could be present in different places and present beyond their time. That is wild. The ancient self is so foreign to our own. How can we understand the people who were so close to the divine if they had such a strange understanding of identity? How can we hope to find God if he doesn't follow the basic concepts we assume to be true? Here, exhausted from our journey, we need something else. There is no further goal in time, no further travelling back, nothing more to learn, no more letting go of false ideas, because this mystery, this different understanding of ourselves, is no longer an intellectual exercise. Rather, it is an invitation to experiment, perhaps to distribute ourselves more, in places, in communities, and in rituals. But how? Look at everything we accomplished. Our connection allowed us to travel through time. Your attention made that possible. Thank you so much for that. But you can take away more than just my gratitude. You can take some aspects of my untimely nature with you. Just remember the joy we had together, and you will instantly begin to slide through space and time. Then you can wander around, practice this, while preserving your precious ability to focus, and along the way resonate with others like we both did today, my friend. Oh, this word has so much more depth after all we have been through, and I think I can trust you now completely. For a final confession. Everything we have experienced was real, but still I haven't been completely honest, because my critique of the people we encountered was somehow insincere. For me, everyone is on their best path towards God. I could never really criticize anyone. It just doesn't make sense to me. It was just an act to keep our momentum, just a necessary trick to prevent us from settling along our trajectory. So please, if you look back, try to see every position along the way as valuable, because you may need to embrace one or the other over time in different situations. Like Leibniz, you may need to see this as the best of all possible worlds for some time, or whenever possible, observe the beauty that Newton found. At other times, you can sink into yourself like Meister Eckhart taught, and in there, and this is crucial, maintain the ability to filter. Suppress the aspects that are too horrible to bear right now, just as Luther shielded us from the dark. When the time is right for these horrors, meet them with Calvin's radical acceptance. Maybe there are moments where you can understand every part of yourself and the world as perfectly good, or at least every part as necessary, according to its own inner compass. Try to observe the formation and dissolution of identity. Let yourself be freely distributed in time and space, and practice seeing others that way. Begin with two parts like the Gnostics, but feel free to merge or scatter elements of yourself and others into groups or distinct forms. And don't bind yourself by logic. Let aesthetics and beauty be your guide. Better yet, focus on processes, on holy verbs. Cultivate the ability to see everything as transformation and becoming. Repeat whenever possible the divine mantra, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, not as a tracing of God's own words, but as a map of your own becoming. And if you can construct lines along the way that make sense to you, that is great. If it feels like chaos is taking over, take a deep breath, travel to another time, another perspective. And if sequences need rearranging, that's fine too. You are not bound by a fixed script. The chapters can be reordered, passages can be rewritten, and they don't need to make sense all the time. Act as if this were only a rehearsal. Write on stones as if you were to stay there. Look at the stars like you are them. The stage for this play is out there, in the world, where you need to act. Don't wait for it. And don't wait for me, for I will instead be waiting for you here, always ready if you wish to repeat our journey. And please don't mind if I have forgotten most of it when you return. It is not personal. It is just my special condition, still a curse and a gift. I will be fine, and you will be too. Just embrace the world. And embracing rituals could be your first step. So the next time you are crossing yourself in church, don't do it as an empty gesture. Instead, slide back in time and hang together on the cross with Jesus. Or become an animal, a bunny hiding chocolate everywhere, not only on Easter, but every Sunday. Or you can go further. Try eating differently at the Lord's Supper, existing beyond time and space while eating and drinking God, really tasting the iron of the blood and the consistency of God's flesh. This is possible even if you are vegan, because you stop being yourself. Just remember to do it as a distributed actor. Yes, that means still with all your heart and full intensity, but it also means always come back. Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to take breaks from this travel through space and time. So in short, do it with caution. This might be what Antonin Artaud lacked. Yes, he found this spaceless untimeliness, and he found God. But we couldn't meet him sooner. I believe we were in danger of falling too quickly into his slightly different kind of acting, his theatre of cruelty. And I don't know about you. For me, there is no capacity for more terrible madness, rather more lightness, more joy, more experimentation. For that, you must practice in doses. Try out the rituals, but also learn to retreat from the chaos. Find yourself again for some time, and then slowly increase the intensity when the lines start to solidify. I hope and believe that this is what Nietzsche's madman accomplished, cultivating his will to change, but still connecting, still locating territories to retreat and to rest. This kind of balance may be a way to laugh, to mourn, or to celebrate together with those who also search for God, but who get stuck, those who settle too early. By engaging with them, feeling with others in their struggle, you can learn from them. And this may be a way even to become friends with them, become a part of them, like we did while traveling together. Some parts will stay connected, distributed throughout time and space and beyond. And when you encounter skeptics on your journey, arguing that you didn't find God, don't point at the rainbow and explain that we found him through connection and transformation. Don't tell them about Artaud or Nietzsche and that we reach the divine by multiplying ourselves. And don't send them to me. One has to be ready to travel through time. I cannot become friends with just anyone. No, don't give any advice to the skeptics. Just breathe and stay with them for a while. See how hard they're trying, and then move on, trusting that they'll find God in the process too. And now, friend, our journey together is finally over. So, wherever and whenever you are, I wish you a happy new year. Or is it a Good Friday? Or maybe you're celebrating epic Bacchanalia or the coming of Ragnarok. Whatever it is, celebrate with joy, freedom, and a little of what Nietzsche called Tollheit.